We're going to talk about 5 good bugs and bad bugs in your garden. So let's start with the bad bugs first.
Okay, so the first one we have here that is very common is aphids. And aphids are basically like the tick of the garden world. They suck the nutrients from your plants. And so there's a few things you can do is you can take some water and spray your plants or a garden spray bottle.
Chapin pump sprayer.
Otherwise, you can encourage the good bugs to come along.
And we'll talk about those in a moment. But what are those good bugs that will eat these aphids?
There's lacewings, lady beetles, hoverflies, midges, big-eyed bugs, damsel bugs, soldier beetles, and blister beetles.
And how aphids come in a variety of different shapes and colors, black, brown, yellowish, or white. And they will attach themselves to the undercarriage of the leaf structure. And they don't kill the plant by mowing it down, but like you said, they suck the juices out of it.
Yeah, they suck all the juices out of it, so then the plant typically isn't strong enough and it becomes kind of wilty. Aphids also they can reproduce without mating. So they are kind of a special kind of evil. Another thing you can do, especially if you can see them, is you can take some soapy water, and that tends to spray. You spray your plants soapy water. It tends to get rid of them. And also, there's a trick with worm castings.
Worm castings provide or contain a beneficial property in which you feed them to your plants. Or some people will grow in worm castings, but if you're not growing them, you can take and top dress your plant with those worm castings, water them in. Worm castings is the byproduct of the worm, and the property gets uptake into the plant, and then as the aphid is sucking the juice from the plant, that property goes in the aphid, and it begins to dissolve the aphid from the inside out.
Right. So that is an option for you. Another option is that if you have one plant that these aphids are just like loving, then you could probably just leave that plant and use it as a sacrificial plant. That's happened to us. And actually it was a, what was that? A dandelion? No.
Lamb's quarter.
Lamb's quarter. And unfortunately, yeah, they decided to become best friends with that plant. You do take the chance sometimes if it's a weed or something of that weed receding, but it's kind of like, do you want your plants to live in the moment or not?
Tomato hornworm is another one. You can hand pick these off. They are very difficult to see. These attack the tomato plant. It actually eats the fruit typically about 12 hours before you intend to harvest the tomato that's almost ripe. And you can spot them if you've got a keen eye. We were only able to identify them when it was on an isolated plant in a grow bag by itself, and I knew there was one on there.
They're very hard to see.
You can illuminate them at dark with a black light, and they will pop out. They do the most damage between at dawn and at dusk. And you can blast them with a hose, the tomato plant, and sometimes dislodge them. However, you can damage the plant. The best thing that we have found that works for us is, number one, you don't plant the tomatoes in the same physical location as they were last year, but you incorporate bird feeders or tuna cans on sticks in amongst your tomato patch. That brings the birds in. The birds can find these hornworms and eat them, and you eliminate them. And since we've been doing that practice,
it's been very successful for us.
For like 5-6 years now. Another one. What's another one here? Snails and slugs.
Yeah. So snails and slugs, you can hand pick them. You can use beer traps.
This is the best thing that we've found.
Found beer traps definitely work. Sometimes if you take coffee grounds or sand, eggshells around the plant, that works because that tears up their underside and they don't like crawling through that or slithering.
Explain the
that.
beer trap, because that's probably the most successful one. Now, there's beer traps that you can make in your home, and there's also ones that are commercially available that have a lid on it to prevent the water from rain diluting the alcoholic beverage.
So what you do is, if you want to do it yourself, you just take a cup or even like a tuna can or something, and you just bury it so it's at soil level, so the lip of it's at soil level, and then you put beer in it, and the slugs love that. They just crawl on there. I guess they probably get drunk, but you do want to move it away from your plants or put it away from your plants so that they get attracted to the beer away. So if you have like a corner of your garden that's you're not using, that's where you want to put the beer trap.
Another bug is the squash vine borer, which attacks your zucchini and pumpkins, all but the butternut squash, because the stem is thick enough that it can't burrow in and lay its larva. You will know that you have this, but you want by being vigilant and looking at the stalk. If it looks like there's a hole and sawdust coming out at the base about 2 inches up, there are in there. The larva has been laid in there, and they are starting to potentially eat away at the internal portions, which cuts and severs the veins from the water uptake. That's why when you have a zucchini plant and it looks like it needs water, and you just watered it, and the next day it's flat on the ground, this is what's in it.
So the squash vine borer, what Joey does, and he does this, is he takes and he does some surgery.
Yeah, I take and I slit open the stem about 3 inches from the soil level, and you'll be able to open it up a little bit, not sever it from the actual rootstock, but you'll be able to see the larvae begin to emerge, and you'll pull these little white worms out, and there's typically 5-7 worms in there, and you get rid of them. And that is what saves our plants over and over and over again when it comes to the squash vine borer.
Right. So that is another one. And then the fifth one we have here is the potato beetle. And we've never had potato beetle problems, but a lot of people do. The biggest thing most people have to do, unfortunately, is just find them and pick them off.
You can vacuum them off. People will take the vacuum out in the garden with them. However, if you grow sage along with your potatoes, that aroma kind of has a deterrent. It's kind of a companion plant where it helps the other, and it works very well for some people. They find that to be a very beneficial plant to grow next to. Well, let's talk about 5 good bugs, I guess is what you would label them. There's a couple of ones that are here, not necessarily bugs, but earthworms is a great beneficial. It's the workhorse of the garden. Earthworms they
compost, they break down soil, they break down all sorts of things in your garden. They are definitely a decomposer. So they circulate the soil, they circulate the decayed matter in your soil. So they are a workhorse of the garden.
And do not add worms. Fill your garden with compost, shredded leaves, chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings, coffee grounds. They will come. They can travel a tremendous amount of distance in a very short period of time, and they will migrate to your property when the conditions are favorable.
So ladybugs, they do eat aphids. Some people will buy ladybugs and release them in your garden, blah, blah, blah.
It's not recommended because
you don't know if
they're not staying there. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not like, oh, here's my home now. Thanks for the real estate.
Incorporate plants that are pollinated that you can.
So they like things like fennel, dill, cilantro, things like that. Yarrow, caraway, geraniums, coreopsis, and cosmos. They seem to like those types of plants.
Bees. We knew that one was going to be on the list somewhere down the line. Bees. Incorporate flowers. Lots of flowers. Incorporate bee favorable habitats such as watering stations, subtype of things like that. Bees. Without bees, we lose almost everything that we know to be life. So do not use harmful chemicals, especially in the spring. We got dandelions going to be popping up if they're not already. People go in and spray them, and the bees get in there. That's their first pollen of the year. They take them back to the hive, and it messes up their hive and can kill the hive. Just a little thing about dandelions. If you kill them in your yard, dandelion seeds can travel virtually miles. So it's not going to fix the problem. They're still going to be there. Pill bugs.
Yeah, pill bugs, also known as roly-polies or potato bugs. They're another decomposer. They're going to go ahead and break the decaying matter down, and then they also move the soil around. They're a natural way to remove heavy metals from the soil, so they absorb those toxins, and they give you good, clean soil for your plants.
Real quick on the potato beetle on previous there. Mm-hmm. If you mulch your potatoes with straw, it shades the potato from the sunlight, but also it gives a habitat for the insects that attack and eat the potato beetle there. So
okay. So then we also have lacewings, and lacewings are not harmful or dangerous to humans, but they can
The potato beetle.
They can, yeah. Oh, yeah, potato beetle. The lacewings can attack other bugs, and we talked about that with the aphids, and also whiteflies. They can get rid of. So, yeah, they
very, very. And you may not know you have lacewings, and you may think it's a bad bug, but it's once you identify some of these. It makes a tremendous difference on. You can see the ecosystem that is developing on your property.
Right. You definitely want to do your research. So if you see a bug and you're not sure what it is, you want to look into it, see what it's doing, weigh its good and bad. What is it doing to your little ecosystem in your yard, and so on.
Yeah, just have a mixture of plants that way can ensure a lot of food source for the green lacing. If the bugs are running around, they're going to eat the other bugs. So good bugs, bad bugs, identify so you know what you're doing. And if you're going to use harmful chemicals, I would advise not to, because if you use a harmful chemical to kill bug A, that harmful chemical kills all bugs, good and bad. And then you have a ecosystem that is very vulnerable to attacks from other insects.
Right. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.